Okay, this is the noontime check-in. I'll show you how much water I've drank. That much water, like that much water. I cleaned the kitchen. I talked to my mom. Um, there's a hurricane coming, South Florida, which is where I'm from. Um, and I talked to a friend of mine, and I have a headache. And I don't think it's because I haven't eaten. I think it's because my friend told me that he doesn't see the value in uh, doing a job that doing a job that he gets paid less than $70 an hour for. Um, which I find laughable because I have a job now that pays $20 an hour, and it's the most I've ever been paid hourly, and and it's a great job, and I enjoy it, and I get a lot of benefit out of it. Um, and so I just want to touch on that for a second. I mean, you can call that privilege, or you can call that ego, or you can call that whatever you want to call it. But what it comes down to is this: there is a difference between working smart and working hard. I got way more value out of a job that I only made $10 an hour at than I did at a job that I made $15 an hour at. So for $10 an hour, I was working at a sensory deprivation center, or a float center. And if you don't know what that is, Joe Rogan talks about it in his podcasts. Basically, a doctor named John C. Lilly was tasked by the National Institute of, I think, Mental Health, or just the National Institute of Health, um, to basically determine how sensory input works in the brain, and so on and so forth. And so he designed these tanks. They made a movie kind of based on it called Altered States, which they're rebooting. Um, I never saw the original, and I will not see the reboot, mainly because I don't ever want that experience to be tainted for me. I think it is an amazing and wonderful experience. Um, so anyway, $10 an hour, working, and sometimes less, um, because you would get paid a certain amount for the day. Um, so if you were working 4 hours, you would get $10 an hour, and then if you were working a full shift, open to close, you get paid $100, and sometimes you would work more than 10 hours. Um, and that job taught me the value not only of the fringe benefits of work, um, meaning that I got to use the sensory deprivation tanks whenever the hell I wanted, which was amazing considering we charged more than $50 per session to people. I got to meet a lot of interesting people, have a lot of interesting conversations. I got to be a caretaker for people in this very vulnerable sort of altered states experience, which was phenomenal. I got to have the experience, and my boss was just amazing. He was the best boss I've ever had. My dad used to say, the best job I never had. And so that's basically what that was. An amazing boss, an amazing place to work, amazing clients. I learned so much. I grew so much. My boss was very much a mentor. And then I made $15 an hour working at Apple. Uh, and it was the most cultish, uh, dog eat dog, just crap place to work, you know? And I got caught in it hook, line, and sinker. I mean, how cool is it that they tell you that it's harder to get a job working at Apple than to get into Harvard or Yale? How you're going to think different and change the world. And then the iPhone came out, and then the manager started saying, "You're not a person anymore. You're just a number in a system." And and then I had another manager who wanted to fire me because I had a death in the family, and it affected my attitude with customers, and they wouldn't give me time off to grieve. So $15 an hour, 25% discount on, um, a computer, and so on and so forth. And it was the biggest waste of 5 years of my life that ever happened. Um, and all the money I made from there, money from stock, um, you know, uh, I actually spent undoing the damage from working there. So, and that might have just been my experience. I'm sure there are plenty of people, and maybe it was my local, store that was like that, just my manager. It wasn't the entire company. But I tried to complain about it up the channel, and it was a good old boys club down there in the South, and nobody did anything about it. And uh, and I wound up getting fired for something called time card theft, or modifying my time card inappropriately. Basically, what happened back then was that their clock in, clock out system was an internally developed system, and they had it synced with a clock out in Cupertino, California. Um, and the time that was displayed on the time card system did not match the internal clock. So you had no way of knowing whether you were clocking in or out on time or late or whatever it is. Um, so we would manually input our times, because if you were more than 5 minutes late and you got 3 tardies, then you would get fired. And we get caught up in this capitalistic society, and we think we're special because our business card says genius on it and it has an Apple logo on it, and so on and so forth. And so I tried my best not to get fired, which included pretty much being addicted to Adderall and Xanax for the last couple of years. I worked there in order to handle the stress of it. I got accused of fudging my numbers, my metrics, and then they watched me and they realized I was multitasking, and now everybody has to multitask. Sorry, Apple employees, that was my bad. And I even got accused of intentionally damaging a computer when it was a result of a design flaw. So I sent it in for repair, and then they told me that I damaged the computer, and I was a technician at the time. And so I was like, no, I would not have sent this in for repair as a technician, knowing that I damaged it. And, anyway. So it was a very interesting water. It was a very interesting working experience. And I recommend it to anyone who has a stronger character than I do, who won't get hoodwinked, and realize it's just a job, and that there are many more jobs after that. I mean, once I left, I started working for myself, doing the same kind of work, and I had clients that were multimillionaires. I had one guy that paid me $85 an hour before expenses. $85 an hour to manually transfer his contacts from his Microsoft system to his Mac system. Even though there was an automated way to do it, he wanted to make sure it was done right. And so I sat at his desk where he had these canceled checks for $1 million that he had deposited into his account in his penthouse apartment in Tampa, Florida, while he was in the other room getting a massage. And so I can't really, hate on Apple, because it did open up, a lot of opportunities for me. But it also did a lot of damage. And I think that's kind of par for the course with life. Our damage becomes our, can become our gifts. For example, did you know that most of the geniuses, when they take your computer, or your iPhone to the back to run a diagnostic on it. At least at my store, most of them were going through the phones looking for nude pictures. It might have been that there were so many porn stars that were coming into the Tampa store. I don't know. But anyway, you know, it's just such a strange and really surreal environment to be working in, and the way that we were treated on top of it was just crap. But the best part about this story that I don't want to forget is that after I got fired, our store manager got demoted and transferred, and then demoted again. And it didn't matter that his assistant manager wrote like a 20-page letter to Human Resources. They gave him so many second chances, and he's still working there. And he has to work under a woman as the manager, which he was such a chauvinist that it makes me laugh to think that that's what happened. You know, and I'm glad he got to keep his job because he, you know, he had a family, and you know, his parents were elderly and they were in a home, and you know, he was getting his MBA and all of these things, so he needed the job more than I really needed the job. After that, I collected unemployment because it was during a recession. I went back to school. I got my degree. I went to Europe. I went backpacking. I broke my knee. That's a story for another time. And, you know, and life goes on, you know. But, you know, there's so much value. Kind of the moral of the story is there's so much value to be gotten from jobs that don't pay you what you think you're worth, or what society tells you somebody in your position is worth. And I'm really happy to have had those experiences because, I don't know, it builds grit. And I think grit is really what is sort of the foundation for success for creative people, is grit. And so I'm hoping also that this water fast proves to myself that I have that sort of grit for my own purposes and my own reasons, rather than, you know, what I've been influenced to think growing up in this society. So anyway, that's that. Oh, like magic, my headache's gone. Surprise! I don't have any more kitty stuff to show you because they're not around right now because I'm cranky. Well, guess what? I just got called into work tomorrow, and this is the microphone. And I was thinking about it. I was like, should I go in when I'm all headachy and cranky pantsy? And I decided to go in today instead because I feel like that would be safer. Like, you're not even supposed to shower once you get to a certain point in a water fast until you acclimate to it, because you could just pass the fuck out. So, it is 1 p.m. I just got called into work. They're like,
We know that you requested not to come into work this week and to work from home, but you know, we really need you to come in and do some stuff because that's what we pay you for.
and I'm like, okay, I will do that today when no one else is in the office and no one can see me in my water fasting shame. So that's what I'm doing. And this is my voice. Oh, Water progress. There. I am there now. I keep looking to the right because I think the camera's on the right because I'm a lefty and the camera's on the left and it bothers the shit out of me. So I'm trying to look at the camera. I'm trying to look at you. Take a sip. Into the city we go.